Welcome to Barcelona, where the first Formula One pre-season test is already well underway. The shakedown, as it's been officially dubbed. Now, John Noble, this is a behind closed doors test. We're on the wrong side of those closed doors, but it's been an interesting morning, hasn't it? Trying to get a bit of a sight and a listen to the cars.
Yeah, we've managed to get a little glimpse of the cars. Barcelona, yesterday I scouted around some places to observe, but unsure of what security would be like. So this morning, went down, all fine. There's a little hill that looks over that last complex, so you can see them entering the complex, the left-hander, going back, and just get a glimpse of the pit lane and the final corner. I was there, maybe 4 or 5 other journalists and a photographer, all happily, and then after about 45 minutes or so, security turn up and demand we're moved on. And I think since then it's been a game of, cat and mouse between spectators and journalists and security, constantly running around, because I've spotted this security guard. It's been driving down roads, coming back down roads, moving more people on and going around. And I think they clocked you as well when I had a chat to some of the security at a second encounter later on as well.
Yeah, because I was in a different place, so I was over behind turn 3 to have a listen. I knew there wasn't line of sight there, but you basically have, there's sort of an area of land you can park on, then there's the road, and then there's a wall, and then you've basically got a tiny little hill, sort of embankment, and then you've got the track. So I thought, well, I'll go there. And so I parked there, did a little social media video, and there was a security guy there, a guy in a fluorescent jacket, who sort of seemed to be looking at me, and we did a bit of staring at each other, and I took a few videos and that kind of thing. And I thought, oh, I'm certain he's clocked me. So I sat there for a bit, and then they came to the point where I drove off to go and meet you, whereupon you confirmed they had indeed spotted me.
Yeah, so I was trying to walk back around the perimeter road to meet Ed, and security going, no, you can't walk this way, the perimeter's off limits. I said, well, I'm meeting my friend here, and then this window wound down of the security guard in the back who spoke English, and he went, Ford Puma? Oh, they've seen it then. So they've well spotted you. But even then, there were more spectators turning up and going up to the hill. So I think it's going to be a constant game of moving everything around, finding different spots. I've seen bunches of people hidden in trees. I've seen people back on the hill. I've seen people standing on a bank. I met some Spanish journalists today, and we went to a car park that overlooked one of the final corners, but it's a bit exposed because you're quite high up, so you can get easily spotted. But I think everyone's just moving around to keep an eye out, because it's quite difficult for them, because it's public. The land around it is public. Apparently the security told the Spanish that any place where you can see the track is basically the track's property, so that's why they were trying to move people on.
I'm no expert in Spanish law, but I'd be questioning that one. I'd want to see where that's set down in law. But we're just on the edge of the circuit. Obviously, the main start-finish straight is there. You can see the grandstand. And there was one amusing moment when I was watching, or listening, rather, when a flatbed truck pulled into. There's a little sort of side road that leads into a gate into the track, and the gate's firmly shut. And the flatbed truck stopped. The guy got out, raised the tilt bed up, and then walked up the tilt bed, stood and looked into the track from on top of the tilt bed, and it was clear it wasn't quite high enough. And then he thought, oh, okay, got back down, put the tilt bed back down and drove off, presumably to try and find another vantage point elsewhere. Either that, or it was just completely coincidental, and someone going about their business who wanted to test their flatbed tilt bed. So there's lots going on, and we're being very careful in terms of what we're doing. We're not going to do any trespassing or breaking in or anything illegal. We're not flying drones over the circuit or anything, but we just felt we had to be here just to see what can be learned.
I think it's important because you don't know how closed things are going to be. It's also important to see things, know, was this morning going to be all about red flags and cars not running and lots of breakdowns, or was it going to be, as it's actually turned out to be, some quite impressive amount of running, decent lap times and some early indications. So I think it is important to be here, even if we've got to keep shuffling around and finding different vantage points just to get a glimpse of the track.
Yeah, it's a curious thing, the fact that this test is behind closed doors. Ultimately, testing's become a part of the schedule, hasn't it? And because it's a group test, it's new rules, there's loads of interest in it, which again is why we felt we had to be here. And F1's kind of fighting against the inevitable in terms of the coverage, because there's loads of people doing various bits and pieces that are saying what's going on there. But like you say, it's actually been a pretty positive story because we've got 7 cars in total out today. So that's Racing Bulls, Red Bull, Mercedes, Cadillac, Alpine, Haas, and who's the 7th one?
Racing Bulls, did he say?
Racing Audi. Audi's the 7th, yes. So they're all out there. The Mercedes did the most running early on. Kimi Antonelli was quickest. He got down into the 22s or 22.3, something like that. That's still well off pole time, which was an 11.5 last year, but that's not a problem because this is really early testing. It's cold. It was a little bit damp this morning, so nobody's going out there to set pole position times or representative race times at the moment, so it's still in that early work. But a number of those teams have gone out there and done sort of relatively reasonable stints, haven't they?
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Antonelli, Mercedes were first out this morning. They just beat Audi out. I know Audi said before the weekend they wanted to get out at 9 o'clock, but Mercedes just beat them to it. Kimi Antonelli's driving today, and he's done a stint today, quite a long stint for testing 8-9 laps, and it was just consistently faster. So it shows that the teams have these systems under control. They're starting to learn the cars. The track's getting better. It was damp this morning. It poured down last night, but the track's steadily improving. And the 22 race pace, I think fastest lap last year was around a 1:17, so it was still slightly off race pace. But this is the first day of testing with all brand new cars at their very peak. We expect them to be 1 or 2 seconds slower than the 25 cars. I expect a lot more to come this year, and I think that the success of day one will be number of laps completed. That whoever sits at the top of that at the end of today, both from a team perspective and a manufacturer perspective, will be very happy.
Yeah, Mercedes looking good early on. It reminds me slightly of that first test at Jerez in 2014 when the new power units, the then new power units that are now being superseded, came in. But it's been much more lively. I mean, both days Mercedes got out there and seemed to be the best prepared, but this time there's more teams out, there's more laps being done early on, so it's a good positive story. Just the one red flag, which was a couple of hours before there was a red flag, which was a pretty brief one for Franco Colapinto's Alpine, so that didn't seem to be anything too problematic. We don't know what caused that, but positive start for this new rules era. And again, why have it behind closed doors? Because if everyone could see it, clearly it would have been a nice, solid, strong, F1 2026 up and running.
Yeah, the actual glimpse I've got of the cars through that final complex, they just look like Formula One cars. You may be able to hear they sound like Formula One cars as we've got to them. Obviously, we haven't seen them in racing action yet, and that won't happen until the Australian Grand Prix. But the first impressions are it's not the revolution that it looks like on track. They don't look appalling to drive. They look skittish this morning, but the track was damp, so you can't tell how much was there. So we'll have to try and observe a bit more, see what else we can see. But in terms of F1, in terms of how bad this test could have started, you could have had 4 or 5 red flags on the bounce, nobody running, not much happening. Actually, for teams to start logging up the miles quite consistently now is quite a good start.
Absolutely, and I guess the tip of the hat to Cadillac, who are here. Valtteri Bottas is out and running. They haven't done a huge amount of laps early on, but they've made the first test, and obviously they was taught they wouldn't do. I mean, they did the shakedown before, so that's very positive. Like I said, 7 cars in all. We know Williams isn't going to do this test because they've had problems. McLaren have already said it's day 2, day 3. Ferrari we're expecting tomorrow as well. Aston Martin, I guess, is the big unknown at this stage. Yeah,
we're not sure when Aston Martin will appear. McLaren have said day 2 or day 3, so they may run tomorrow. I think in terms of that running tomorrow, Wednesday, a lot will also depend on the weather. We were caught in a huge rainstorm here last night. It's been raining on and off. The rain's supposed to come in on Tuesday, so that may impact things because teams will not want to waste half a day of a wet track if they've got the ability to run in the dry, because the second you leave the pit lane and your first lap is registered, that's 1 day counting. So what the scenario you don't want is to get out, do a lap, and then the rest of the day is rained off and you can't run. So I think there will be a lot of movement around this. But Aston's one we're not quite sure when it's going to come. Could be day 3, could be day 4.
Yeah, and I think any team that does a good day's work here, as all 7 teams have started off showing the intent to do, they'll feel pretty good about themselves because they've then got the leeway, haven't they? They've then got to do 2 of the last 4 days. You're not boxing yourself in so much, so that's a nice position to be in. Even though the likes of McLaren said, well, we wanted to maximise the development time, etc., there is an element of risk to that.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that if it does rain tomorrow and you decide, OK, let's not bother, you've got all the data from today, send it back to your factory. You can run in the simulator. You can get your correlation more improved. You can go through the analysis. You can work things out, and you can arrive in a much better shape on Wednesday. You don't need to get day 2 done tomorrow. You can quite happily do it on Wednesday and Thursday, for example. You've still got your time in, no big dramas, everything sorted. So there will be a fair degree of freedom, but it's all about understanding these cars. That's the whole point of this test.
Absolutely, and the drivers getting that early feel of the cars in the real world, starting to build that understanding. Like I said, it is cold. They're using the real 2026 F1 tyres, so they'll be learning about those. But the grip levels won't be great, doubly so given they've got less downforce, so in the corners they will move around more, but they'll be learning about the active aero, learning about the energy management. Obviously it's a 350 kilowatt MG UK this time, whereas it was only 120 kilowatt last year. So lots for everybody to learn, and we've learned as much as we can. And I presume it's now going to be the rest of the test the same thing, isn't it? The security will probably shut off more and more access roads and that kind of thing, and the amount of information dribbling out will probably reduce.
Exactly, and the full Puma's being watched.
Absolutely, so going to be very, very careful. Perhaps I should do one of those things like in films where you drive into somewhere and just jump cars and out into another one. But I did give the security guard who was watching me a little wave as I drove off. So but we like to think we're being friendly about it. We're not here to cause trouble. But anything we do find out, we will be talking about on the race.